listen, Chito Vera, fun fact about this man, never knocked down.
Never
What was the
finished.
others? Never finished. Okay. So I don't know why there's this great expectation that all of a sudden Sean O'Malley's going to be able to knock this guy out. If anyone gets knocked out in this fight, I think it's going to be Sean O'Malley.
How you doing, fight fans? It's me, Jesse Rowe with Inside Fighting, joined by Timothy James, aka Timmy Shoes. I'm the host this week because Timmy's feeling under the weather, so I'm taking over responsibilities. Timmy, how are you feeling, my man?
I've been better, but you know what will make me feel better is hitting big on these bets this weekend.
Making hundreds of thousands of dollars listening to our fight
Yes.
pick analysis.
Tens and tens of dollars.
Tens and tens of dollars. Well, we've got a couple of different options this week. We're going to start with boxing because we have big boxing fight, and then we also have UFC 299. So we're going to start with big boxing fight this weekend. Former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou is taking on heavyweight superstar Anthony Joshua. They're fighting in Saudi Arabia. It's a massive event. I don't know if you've seen any of it, but it's been a pretty spectacular event. Francis is obviously coming off of a controversial loss to Tyson Fury, where he did drop Tyson Fury at one point in that fight. A lot of people feel like Francis actually won the fight. Anthony Joshua was coming off
He
of a
did.
knockout of Otto Wallen, I believe. Joshua's on hot, and Robert Helenius. So Joshua's on a hot streak since losing to Alexander Usyk. And the odds are reflective of that. Anthony Joshua is a minus 300 favorite, and Ngannou is a plus 235. Timmy, what are your thoughts?
They keep doubting my man Francis Ngannou. Do not doubt him ever again. He is going to knock out Anthony Joshua, and I think he gets it done under 6 rounds. If Anthony Ruiz can find that shot, I think Francis Ngannou can find that shot. He's big, he's strong, he comes at weird angles, aren't used to it. He put Tyson Fury on his ass. He's going to put Anthony Joshua in a coffin. Let's go.
Wow. Okay, they're coming out strong. Interestingly enough, before I get to my take, the over-under on rounds, over minus 105, under minus 130. So it's actually favorited to go under. So it's interesting that you said that. I would never doubt Francis Ngannou. I think he's going to hold his own. But I do think Anthony Joshua will get it done because I do think Anthony Joshua might actually be a tougher matchup for Francis Ngannou than Tyson Fury is. Because I do think Tyson Fury is a great boxer. I think Anthony Joshua is a great athlete and a good boxer. I think Ngannou's going to have his moments. I think Joshua will eventually just pick him up. He'll outbox him throughout the course of the fight, and then in the later rounds, he'll really start to separate himself from Francis. That's what happens when the better boxer wins. I could be totally wrong. I'm not doubting Francis. Pick Francis by knockout. He's a great high-value underdog. He really is. He's a great high-value underdog. I would not be surprised if he wins. I just think Joshua better in the boxing. Moving right along, let's get to UFC 299. This is an incredible fucking card. There are so many good fights. So I couldn't even really figure out what to choose from because there are fights on this undercard that could main event on fight nights. I mean, there are some really, really good ones. Starting with Peter, this one is my favorite fight on the card. Peter Yan versus Song Yadong. This fight's awesome. It's a bantamweight banger of the ages. These two guys are great boxers. They were beefing at the press conference about who's a better boxer. They were both speaking English to each other at the press conference. It's awesome. Really respect that two guys that have it's not their first language, and they're trying their best to make this an exciting fight. I respect the hell out of both these guys. I really, really do. Peter Yan, former champion, is a minus 125 favorite. Song Yadong is a slight underdog at plus 105. What do you think?
I don't know why. There's no rhyme, reason, or logic. I got Sonya Dawn by knockout. I don't know if it's going to be early or going to be late. I think Piotr Yan is probably the better boxer skill-wise, but Yadong's got that power that Piotr Yan doesn't have. He's got that delete button. You know what I mean? So I think he's going to find that chin, and I just feel like he's going to win by knockout.
I have no idea who I'm picking in this fight. I haven't even thought about it because I love both of these guys. I really do. I love If I had to pick, I would say that I think Peter Yan's in a little bit of a slump here. I think he got screwed against Sean O'Malley in Abu Dhabi. I do. I think he got screwed. I think that that fight was very close. I think that there's some argument for him to O'Malley to have won that fight. I think he got screwed. I think Marab took the confidence right out of Peter Yan. And he just overwhelmed him for 5 rounds, shut him out 5-0. Peter Yan couldn't do anything, couldn't get up. Obviously, this is a very different stylistic fight. I'm going to go with Song Yadong as well. I like your knockout pick. I don't know about a clean knockout, but I could see a TKO situation in maybe like late round 2, early round 3, because I think Jan's going to have some moments. I think this is going to be fight of the night. I think this will be fight of the night. I think Jan,
That's
I
a good
think
bet.
Jan has a chance of like dropping him at one point, and then Song, his youth, his athleticism will overcome it in the end. Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena. This is another one that has huge implications in the welterweight division. Jack Della is rising star, rising fast in the UFC. Gilbert Burns, former title contender, one of the great grapplers in the division, just an awesome, awesome, awesome fighter. This is another banger. Jack Della is a slight favorite, minus 166. Gilbert Burns is a plus 140, coming off of a win over Jorge Masvidal. Was his last win, by the way. Who do you got?
Dorino all the way. I think Della Maddalena showed a little bit of a weakness. He fought a guy late notice. I believe the Iranian guy, Turkish guy, I forgot who it was. Hamza, I think is his name. And he was able to
Oh no,
rest
no,
him.
you're.
Was
Oh
that
no, Hafez.
Hafez? Yes.
Yeah,
So I think Dorino's gonna choke him out. And I think he could knock him out too. I don't like Dorino fighting this fight on the feet, but I'm gonna go with something like an armbar or a rear naked choke. Gilbert's gonna choke him out. The only reason he lost that Bilal fight was because his shoulder blew up. We all know that. Fluke, absolute fluke.
yeah, and I mean he had a busted up shoulder, and Bilal couldn't even TKO him or anything. Just and it was a five
Get your
round fight too,
get
because it
your
was a tight.
shit together, Bilal.
Remember that fight was 5 rounds because it was supposed to be a title eliminator, and Bilal still hasn't gotten his title shot. It tells you a lot about what's going on in that division. By the way, just really quick, you mentioned submission. This might be the high value pick of the night. Submission is a plus 350 for Burns to win by a submission,
Hell yeah,
which is a good one.
that is a good one.
This is a tough fight for Jack Della Maddalena, and he needs to win this one for people to take him seriously, because I do think there's some fraud implications here with the UFC fan base if he can't win this one, because I do think a lot of people feel like Jack Della Maddalena is a little overhyped. I'm not one of them. I think he's a really talented fighter. I really like his striking. I really like his
You only like him because you both got fucked up noses.
100% crooked nose club all the way. Jack Della Maddalena is going to eke out a split decision over Gilbert Burns. It's going to be
Ooh,
controversial. It's going to be
ooh,
controversial. People are going to think that
interesting.
Burns won. Jack Della is going to get it done. This is the one that is God. All of these fights are really close, by the way. Michael Venom Page has made his way over from Bellator. He is officially a UFC fighter. Some say a few years too late, but he is in the UFC, and he's taking on fan favorite and Dana White favorite Kevin Holland, Trailblazer. This is a really close one. This is another coin flip. Michael Page is a plus 114 underdog. Kevin Holland is a minus 135 favorite. This is a striker's delight, whoever you got in this fight.
I wanted to see MVP in the UFC 5 years ago. I think right now we're gonna get him on the back end of his career, and all I'm gonna say is one of these guys is from England and the other guy's from Texas. Kevin Holland's gonna win by knockout.
I am tempted to say bet the house on Kevin Holland in this fight. I think Kevin Holland has all the tools to anybody that you're going to go into a striking match with. Kevin Holland's the wrong guy to do it. I think that he would have beaten Wonderboy if he didn't break his hand, because I do think that he was piecing Wonderboy up before he broke his hand. And Michael Page reminds me of Wonderboy. He's just a British Wonderboy. Obviously, he's a very talented striker. He has some MMA in his game. Obviously, he can grapple a little bit too, but Most of his moments have been by knockout, unless I'm wrong here. But I feel like every time I see him getting a
No,
finish, it's by flying
I
knee.
wouldn't call him the British Wonder Boy though. He does have a lot more finishing power
That's
than
what I'm
Wonder
saying.
Boy
He has some
does.
MMA skills that Wonder Boy doesn't have for sure. Um, but yeah, I guess I would just say I think that this is a situation where you have two guys that are sort of almost like identical. In terms of like they're it's going to be a striking match, right? I'm going to take the younger guy. I just think that like Kevin Holland can withstand more. I think he can out athlete him. And I think that Page is just going to be a tick behind. I think that he's going to have some moments. I think he's going to put on a show. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, but I think he's going to be just a step too slow for Kevin Holland, who knows Kung Fu, baby. Gotta love that street Kung Fu from Kevin Holland. So I'll take that. All right. Now we're getting into the big ones here. We got the co-main event. We've got Dustin Poirier versus the staph infection himself, Benoit St Denis. Um, this one is, I'm sort of surprised we don't have a heavier favorite here, and maybe I'm wrong, but Benoit St Denis, who's obviously he's on an insane hot streak. He has 5 finishes in a row. He head kicked Matt Frivola in his last fight. This guy is on a war path, literally former French military. Um, he's on a war path for a title shot here. He's a great potential matchup for Islam Makhachev. That's a fight I really love to see. He head kicked Matt Frivola in his last fight, going up against a guy who just lost to a head kick KO in Dustin Poirier. Benoit St. Denis is a minus 205 favorite. Poirier is a plus 170. I'm interested to what you think about the odds here.
I guess that makes sense, because Dustin Poirier is coming off the KO. I think if he had not been KO'd the way he had, the odds would be a lot closer. In some ways, this fight reminds me of the first time that Dustin and Justin fought, Justin Gaethje, because Gaethje was also on a similar warpath. I can't remember if he fought Eddie Alvarez first or after Dustin Poirier, but he was on the warpath. He was finishing everybody, and then all of a sudden he got into a war with Dustin Poirier, and he sort of had to stop and reevaluate things. So maybe we're heading towards a situation like that. But I think there's something about Benoit Anthony. He's a finisher. I think he has 100% finish rate, if I'm not
He has
mistaken.
5 in a row. I know that. I'm not 100% sure about his finish rate. I just know he has 5 in a row.
Yeah, if, it might be just in the UFC, but I think he has 100% finish rate. And I just, I don't like it when guys come back after knockouts. I think they need to take more time. I love Diamond. I don't want to pick against him, but I want to see fresh blood at lightweight, and I really want to see Benoit Santini climb the ranks. So I'm going to go with Benoit Santini, and I think he's going to get a knockout.
I mentioned the odds because I was surprised that Benoit was not a heavier favorite, if I'm being perfectly honest. I love Dustin Poirier too. I thought Benoit would be like a minus 270 or something like that. Um, I'm hammering this for Benoit Saint Denis if this fight actually happens, because it looks like he might have. There's potentially a staph infection on his forehead. I don't know what's going on.
I
The
don't think it's
photos,
staff.
the photo. I don't think that I think the UFC would have already called it off by now if it was, because that's what they did with Paulo Costa with the Hamzat fight. I think Benoit Saint Denis, he's like 2 inches taller. When they stood next to each other at the press conference earlier today, he looks like he was welterweight next to Poirier.
Yeah.
Um, and I think Poirier is gonna get fucked up. If I'm being honest, like I love Poirier. I think that he's probably a couple fights away from this being curtains. And he's even talked about it. He's been saying some things this week about how any fight could be his last. I don't love that. I don't like when I hear that kind of talk from a fighter. I do want to see him and
Yeah.
Conor rematch at some point. I'm not sure it's going to happen. Um, I think Poirier will have some moments, but I just think he's going to be outmatched by Benoit. I think Benoit is the truth. I think he's the real deal. I think he's going to be fighting for a title. I think he's going to be fighting Makhachev at some point, if not the end of this year, sometime early next year. Maybe next. Who knows? But I think Gaethje will be next. Benoit hammer it plus 150 by submission, by the
Not
way.
Gage
I
next.
like that one.
Dana White already said Gaethje is not next. We already know after Charles Oliveira finishes Arman Tsarukyan, he is next.
Right. Okay. So I'm
Okay,
saying after, I'm sorry,
Sean
I'm speaking after whoever wins that fight. That's true. It's Arman. I would actually be interested if Arman loses. Arman versus Benoit for the next
Quinn.
opportunity would be a good one too.
That's a good one.
That would
That's
be
a
a good
good
one
one.
too.
That's a good
Um,
matchup for Arman after he loses. Okay.
yeah, Benoit plus 150 by submission, by the way. That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. Here we go. Main event. Sean O'Malley, the defending champion who knocked out Aljamain Sterling against Marlon Chito Vera. A lot of people feel like Marlon doesn't deserve this shot, being the number 6 fighter in the bantamweight division, coming off of a decision win over Pedro Munoz. Before that, losing a split decision, a very controversial split decision. It's Corey Sandhagen. So people feel like that should have been a clean sweep for Corey. Sean O'Malley, just on the hot streak of all hot streaks, becoming champion. This is a rematch. Sean O'Malley lost because his perennial nerve in his knee got kicked by Marlon Vera, which led to Vera getting him on the ground and TKOing him. People feel like that wouldn't have happened if his knee hadn't gotten fucked up in that first fight. And that was before either of these guys were ranked. So they are much different fighters now than they were back then. Either way, this is being marketed as a rematch. It's a good story. Marlon Vera is a plus 220 underdog. Sean O'Malley's a minus 270 favorite. So
the odds are bigger than I thought they would be. Listen, Chito Vera, fun fact about this man, never knocked down.
yep,
And
never
what was the
finished.
other? Never finished. Okay. So I don't know why there's this great expectation that all of a sudden Sean O'Malley is going to be able to knock this guy out. If anyone gets knocked out in this fight, I think it's going to be Sean O'Malley. And I could see Cheeto because Cheeto's kicks are so deadly and so effective. I can see Cheeto taking damage, because he's a slow starter. He downloads data, but slowly chopping away at the legs and then getting a finish later in the rounds. The other way I see this fight going is O'Malley winning a decision. If this fight goes the distance, I think O'Malley's going to win a decision just because Cheeto does get hit a lot. He does get the ball rolling. It sort of happened in the fight against Sandhagen, right? He never really got the ball rolling. But I don't think he's going to get finished. If anyone's going to get finished, it's going to be Sean O'Malley. But I predicted that Marlon Chito Vera would be bantamweight champion at the end of 2023. The timing didn't look right, didn't work out. But I'm sticking with my prediction. I was just a year off. Marlon Chito Vera is going to get that TKO in the later rounds after Sean O'Malley's legs are cooked.
So I don't hate it. And I was going to make the point about him never being finished or knocked down either. He's kind of got that Max Holloway thing to him a little bit where he's just never been dropped. I do agree. I think Marlon's best chance of winning this fight is it's going to take him a couple of rounds. And then O'Malley, we haven't seen him get into later rounds yet. We have
Yep.
not seen how he gasses out, but we've seen how he's hurt his legs a couple of times in different ways in multiple fights. So he has an issue with staying healthy throughout the course of a fight. I have a tough time picking against O'Malley for a couple of reasons. I do think Cheeto's best chance is to get into the later rounds. And then when O'Malley gasses out, Chito can really start to pour it on with his jab. Just O'Malley's going to start swinging for the fences because he's not going to have the gas to like pick Chito apart. My concern is output. And my concern is that Chito's not going to get enough output done in those early rounds to separate himself enough in the later rounds where the judges would clearly rule in Chito's favor. Because I do agree, I do feel like this fight has decision kind of written all over it. I know a lot of people think O'Malley's just going to knock him out. I don't see it that way. I think Chito has an incredible chin. I think that this could be just a decision fight, and I do think O'Malley's going to win. I'm pretty comfortably picking O'Malley because I do think it just feels like the UFC is just so heavily invested in O'Malley as a champion. And I have trouble getting over that, even though we're a Chito Vera company here at Inside Fighting. So it hurts for me to pick against him. But I think O'Malley is going to get the Topuria fight. if I'm being honest. And I think that they're gonna milk this O'Malley train for as long as they can. Decision for O'Malley.
I could honestly see a situation where Sean wins the first 3 rounds because output and and then maybe Cheeto comes back and he runs round 4 and 5, but it'll be too late. I see a decision for O'Malley, but I think Cheeto's just too tough and he's been waiting for this opportunity. His kicks are too good, his legs are too strong. Cheeto all the way.